Hi, I'm Annabelle Drumm, and I am here with Tom Evans today. Hello, Tom.
Hi there, Annabelle. Hi.
Now, I have some questions for you, and what I've been doing over the last 4 years is interviewing a wonderful channeler, an entity through a channeler, learning all about human behavior and planetary changes and the whole shift of consciousness idea and how we're awakening and that kind of thing. And one of the topics we got onto recently was about how I've been out looking for my next business project, but doing it in a very masculine way. That is, being very outgoing and active and pushing for the answer. And he said that I could actually be a lot more powerful if I did it in a feminine way. So I was trying to understand what that was about. Now, I've got parts of the transcripts here, if I could read little bits to you here and see if I could get your ideas on what that's all about. Would that be okay?
For sure, yeah. Fire away.
Okay, so one of the things he brought up was old style magic and magicians. So this is what he said. In historical terms, there have been what we will call consciousness researchers for every age, what were often called magicians and so forth. There were derogatory terms as well. There were also the paths of both male and female magicians, but they're not the same. Path of the female warrior is not the same pathway as the male one, so I'm a little confused there. He talks about magicians and warriors. I'm not sure if they're the same. There are significant differences. The feminine has the gift of perception. Then oftentimes the magical journey is softer and more nurturing, more filled with nutrient, so one does not have to battle for it. Have you got any ideas on what he means by that?
Well, I guess, yeah, first is it depends on how far back in history you're going to go. You're talking about the history of current humanity phase, or one of the root races that goes back to the dawn of time, which is another thing. But let's assume it's just recent history, and by recent history, probably longer than current thinking, more than 10,000 years, probably about 100,000, if not a million years old. Then male and female magic has flipped, and so the males have been stronger, then the females have been stronger. And most recently, I guess the suppression of female magic was the witch hunts in the Middle Ages, and this is fear on the part of men at female magic. But I've got to say this is that male magic does not have to be practiced by males, and female magic doesn't have to be practiced by females. And also,
but we assume that your own gender would be the most obvious or the easiest for you, perhaps.
Perhaps, yeah, but you get masculine females and you get feminine males, So, but the strongest magic is when you use both magics together. So so that it's not an either or, but an and both.
So, are you saying the masculine and the feminine in the same person, or two people side by side?
Both again, but in the same person mainly. So in the same person, we can invoke masculine type of magic and feminine type of magic, and we can do it at the same time as well.
Okay.
And so you can do it. If we want to talk in the context of your job hunt, that would probably be a really, really good thing to do. How you do both.
Well, I'd like to understand how each of them work, I think.
Yeah. Well, the tarot is a fantastic resource. The tarot is not a fortune-telling deck. It's actually a map of our consciousness and how we work as multi-dimensional beings in a three-dimensional body. And there's two archetypes in the tarot, the magician and the high priestess, that gives the clues to how it all works. But what happens with archetypes is archetypes can quite often become stereotypes. So it's really important that we're not stereotyped by the archetype, if that's not too confusing. Yeah.
Tell me what an archetype is compared to a stereotype.
Well, an archetype might be like a Myers-Briggs profile, that kind of thing. EFNJ or something like that, or Wealth Dynamics, a star, or an accumulator, or something of that sort of nature. And then in classic, you've got the male that's strong and logical, and then the female that's soft and intuitive. You've said that already. And the way that magic works is it doesn't come from us; it comes through us. And so what happens often when someone gets some magical capabilities, whether that's as a classic magician who is a sleight of hand magician, if you like, or a magician of the mind, or somebody that's a good orator, they can get a bit full of themselves, and that's a kind of tendency that can happen to male and to female. But the real magicians are the ones that know that the power doesn't come from them but through them. And it's almost like we're entrusted with that, the amount of power that's safe for us to do. So we take it in terms of the job. Then what you do is you use a little bit of your male side in the form of will to specify the job, filter it, put yourself in the right position where the job can appear, and then you apply your intuitive feminine side to magic the job into your path.
Okay.
So let me describe some of the archetypes for you. This will help you. It'll help make sense. So the first is the magician. I'll pop that up on the camera, and then we'll put it up full
great.
screen. So the magician is a character who is pointing up like this and pointing down. So the idea of that is that he's invoking the above to the below. Right in front of him, he has a table, and on the table are 4 instruments, and the 4 instruments are the wand, the cup, the sword, and the pentacles, and these are the 4 elements. So it implies that the magician is the commander or invoker of the 4 elements.
Okay.
Right, and the 4 elements are the 4 planes of consciousness that sit above the physical plane. So we have the ideas plane, we have the creative plane, we have the formative plane, and what's known as the physical plane. That's where we live. But when we have an idea that comes in, the idea starts in the ideas plane, the archetypal plane, moves into the creative plane, which is the 7th dimension, then it moves down to the 5th dimension, which is the formative plane, then it percolates into our body, and then we go, hey, we've had a light bulb moment, but it's actually seeded in the super consciousness. So the male figure is very much will, and so I will have an idea, I will find a job, and I will make it happen. And some people are good at that, some people are not so good at it. It sits in the outer cortex of the brain as well, it's in the consciousness area, and it's very magical. The fact that we're actually conscious is an amazing thing. So that's where the magician sits. So he's the invoker of magic. And when I say he, it's the he aspect of all of us. So it's
the
not
masculine.
Exactly, yeah. The a compliment, I call it a compliment, it's not the opposite, it's the complement, is the high priestess.
Okay.
And the high priestess is our intuition.
Okay.
So in the context of a job, it's your gut feeling and your heart feeling, is this the right job for me or not? And what happens is, because we've evolved now, so we've got this amazing ability to be self-aware, our heads are louder than our hearts. So often our head will go, yeah, I'll get that job because it's the money and it's the flash car and this sort of stuff, when our heart and our gut is crying out to us saying, don't do
really
it.
Feel like doing that. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And it's
so
not,
the head is not the masculine, though, is it? That's just more a logical
the invocation of the will is the masculine, and that happens in the consciousness, yeah. The feminine is the feeling, but it's the subconscious, the unconscious, and it's the part of us that connects to all wisdom. So in the palm of in the hands of the high priestess is a scroll, and that scroll is the scroll of all knowledge. So in the context of a job, that scroll has imprinted on it your future perfect job, and it has also all the possible jobs that you could apply for, or more importantly, all the possible jobs that can fall into your lap when you're least expecting it.
Right. Yes, I'm wondering if it's something along those lines, that the perfect job for me is going to be, it feels to me, and now I'm saying it feels to me, and yet I wonder if I just, willed it into being as to what I wanted, was to do something that has not, a job that's not been created before, not on Earth, that is really big. And so it's possible I'm going to need to do a scroll of jobs to get to be skilled enough to do this big job.
Well, you're already talking about the synthesis of both types of magician.
Okay.
So the fact.
So that's possible that I create that rather than being given it by divine will.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, divine will is what is we've agreed to come down to the planet to do a certain job, And part of the thing about these jobs is you can't do them when you're up in spirit. You have to come into the earth plane to do them. And some of the jobs we're creating. So we're actually inventing these jobs. I mean, in the classic jobs market right now, 40% of job titles didn't exist 10 years ago.
It's true.
By the way,
and I've watched as well. I've watched people have because what I have been doing is a lot of coaching, particularly in terms of career direction. So I'm quite happy to do this for other people, and not so good at doing it for myself. Where we create a job, I guess, without a job title, based on all the things that they're most passionate about, and then within 1 to 6 months, that job appears. And it's usually been created, like you're saying. It's a new job. It's not, that job was not in the company before. And I see this happen over and over again. So I'm assuming something similar can happen to me, but I am wondering, is it my ego that's saying I can do a really big job, when really my purpose on earth is to do something a whole lot more mundane?
Two things I want to tell you about. One is that one of my claims to fame is I was on a list of the 10 most bizarre job titles on LinkedIn, and I came in at number 4 as the Wizard of Lightbulb Moments, and it was written by a recruitment company, and they were sort of saying, do these people think they're serious? How can they get a proper job? Not realising that I'm actually very happy with that as a job title, and actually I don't want to work for an organisation that doesn't want me to be in that role, because that I have this ability to tap into the collective consciousness, to see the future, to be prescient, bring ideas down, and as an engineer to make them happen. And that's both magicians in action. It's the magician bringing down the idea, the female part of me being receptive to the right idea and knowing which idea is the right one, which one I can give to somebody else, and then the synthesis of both of them making it happen. So in your context, what's really important is this: you have to use the will. Really important, you use the will. Right, that you will the perfect job into action. You will walk into the perfect job. The perfect job will walk into your life. But the thing is, not to think too grand. Don't think about how we're all going to change the planet and stuff like that. Think about Annabelle. Just think about you, and be absolutely selfish. Right? The universe doesn't want us to come down here and struggle. The universe wants to come down here, and create heaven on earth. Right? So what characteristics would the most perfect job have for you? The special soul that is Annabelle. That's the thing to will into action.
That is the trick. Yeah, that is the trick, because I'm good at lots of different things, but I know that it's got to be something that I really love to do.
Exactly. So what you do, just write down all the things you're really good at, right? And then put a question mark above it and call that the job spec, right? And then someone else will, because I didn't call myself the Wizard of Lightbulb Moments, clients did. I didn't call myself a temporal alchemist. I didn't call myself the bookwright. Clients called me this after I was doing the job, and I went, "Oh, that sounds like quite a nice thing. That's probably what I do, you know." But in my latest book, at the very end of it, I said something like, "Tom still doesn't know what he wants to do when he grows up." You know, and in that way, I'm allowing the universe to superimpose another thing on me that I didn't know I was capable of.
Yes. Oh, I totally agree. I feel it's the same way with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the job.
That's cool. So you've given me some good ideas there. Can I go on with a little bit more of the script and see if we can talk a little bit more? Because it'll probably have something more to do with tarot there as well.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the next bit. In another part, he said that the feminine aspect is we underestimate the value of the feminine aspect. The softer feminine side is necessary to make lasting products and ideas. He said it's very much like the sexual act, that in the masculine side it spits out the creative idea, which is what you've exactly said. The feminine takes it in, nurtures it, and develops into something that will survive. Because you often see this. You'll get the male entrepreneurs, they work on their own, they spit out these ideas, they've got fantastic ideas, and the ideas are dead within a year. And that there needs to be a feminine side that will take it in and develop it further so that it becomes something that will be a lasting business idea. Do you think that this relates to tarot at all along those lines?
Well, the tarot says the same story. Yeah, so it's basically that the man is the invoker, and the high priestess and the empress is the nurturer. And again, I've got to reiterate that it's not that women are better at one job and blokes are better at another job. That's kind of traditional because of our culture and education, and society flips. So we have this situation where there are more women now in politics than there were maybe 10, 40 years ago, and it will flip. And it's important for society as a whole that we embrace the feminine side now. The male side has created this wonderful world for us, and by the way, it doesn't mean that women haven't been involved with that. Gives it all this technology and this infrastructure and this fantastic knowledge about the planet, if you like, and where we are in the cosmos. That's very much that kind of male materialistic
Masculine.
science, exactly. And now the tide is turning in a wonderful way to embrace the feminine again, and it's the synthesis of both that creates the next level of evolution for humanity, which is really exciting. So it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying all this male stuff rubbish, we've got to bring the feminine back in. And it's not about saying that the feminine side
not like
is...
feminists. The feminists were saying, women can do it all for themselves.
Yeah, and a lot of women in business wear the power suit and all that kind of stuff, and
politics as well, right? So they have the opportunity to lead a country or to lead a section, like a ministry part of the country, but they do it in a masculine way. That
sure.
You don't see them with fluffy hair and little frills on their clothes and pink. There's nothing feminine that way. They learn to lower their voice. You think about Margaret Thatcher, and in order to be taken seriously, you have to act in a masculine way. Do you feel this is going to be something that will change over time? I mean, I'm thinking of one of the African countries recently were looking for a leader, and a woman ended up as the leader because they called her mother. She said the men have created greed and war and fighting from the lowest part of the hierarchy right to the top, and it's time we change that. And they all said, yes, mother, we want you, and they voted her in. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. I don't know how she dresses and lowers up or keeps her voice where it is, but I wonder if she's going to make that a more feminine approach to leading a country.
Yeah, they're wonderful. When it happens, it's not even if it happens. And actually, to get the balance to come in, to get the synthesis, we have to flip more female for a while, and then it'll oscillate down. Yeah, so we'll have to go more female, and then we'll oscillate into this new synthesis. And by the way, I've got to say, there's a wonderful character that sits in between these two, not in the numerical order of the tarot, but in there's a configuration of the tarot called the Cube of Space, which is a three-dimensional representation of the tarot, and sitting in between, right in the middle, the connector of the High Priestess and the Magician, is the Fool. And the Fool,
what is the Fool?
The Fool is the wisest card in the deck. Even though it's the most naive card in the deck. It's the forward thinker, it's the acceptor, it's the character that goes with the flow. So when you harmonise the masculine and feminine magician in you, the world just delivers you the most charmed existence. And struggle becomes a thing of the past. Now, this is not something which is reserved to an elite. All 7 billion people on the planet can do this. Yeah.
Right.
And then together, collectively, we create an amazing heaven on earth.
Right. So for us females who have learnt all the way through school that the only thing that will be valued is to be loud and active and, pushing out, which is often the masculine kind of side of things, what can you suggest to help people like me find the feminine side? I mean, it's not just about wearing a skirt and lipstick. There's got to be something in this perceptive thinking, or do we just keep flipping the coin where we would use masculine sometimes and feminine, or is there a way that we can use the more of the feminine for a while so that we can get our own balance back?
Well, I think talking practically, there's a very simple way of getting the masculine and feminine to work together, and it's to recognise that not all our consciousness sits in our heads. Our whole neurology is active. So if we play the piano or the guitar, the knowledge of where the notes are is actually in the fingers. It might be directed by the head, and the signals might come down the arms and things like that, but the fingers remember where to go on the keyboard or on the fretboard. And we've got 3 main consciousness centres and neuroscience is catching up with this now. So we know that we've had this model of left and right brain, and left and right brain fits into a masculine feminine kind of pseudo model, but it's pretty inaccurate. And so you have the idea that the man is the left side and the logical, and the woman is the intuitive right side. Very, very simplistic and not at all accurate. More important to think is that we have two very large centres of neurology and consciousness in our heart and in our gut. So the best way by far to invoke both is to allow the head and the heart to speak. And you can do this very, very simply. If you have a decision to be made, so let's say you are offered now as a result of this conversation, because by having this conversation we are going to stir up the collective consciousness, right? So out there, this job will be kind of we'll be zooming your way right now, but you probably get 2 or 3 of them, because it always happens like that, because you'll be also dealing with a bit of karma. And so when a job comes in, you basically say, does the head think it's a good idea, yes or no, right? So you get a tick or a not tick. You say to the heart, is the heart in love with it, lukewarm about it, or cold about it? And then you ask the gut, is it a go or a no-go? Now these centres are very old from an evolutionary perspective, so they're millions of years old. So they're wiser, they're always right, but the head overrules them all the time. So if your gut says go with it. If your heart is in love with it, go with it. And if your head thinks it's a good idea, go with it. If, however, you get a red light from your gut, what you can do is say, what do I need to change in order for it to be a green light? Okay, what would have to change in the job? Does that just give me more money? Does the job have to come to me? Do they got to change the car, the Ferrari from yellow to red? And all this, it won't be as trivial as that, but it'll be those sort of things. And then with the heart, you say, well, if you're not totally in love with it, if you're lukewarm or cold about it, what's got to change so you could fall in love with it, right? And then we can get a green light. And what's weird about these other mind centers as well, which is in my new book, which is coming.
Are they masculine and feminine as well? I mean, men often talk about gut feeling, and women talk about from the heart.
They're more hermaphrodite, to be honest with you.
Okay.
so the gut really is both sexes. The heart probably is more feminine, but. And they have aspects of both. Yeah. So, the man might say gut feeling, and the woman might say intuition, right? But why the gut is always right is really interesting. Is the gut operates 5 to 10 seconds ahead of our conscious awareness.
Right.
It's always right. Always right.
Okay. So. And I guess the other thing that makes me extremely impatient is the idea that this particular channeler often talks about me trying too hard, going out to try and find the job, where a lot of the time it's already in progress, it's already on its way, like you were saying. And it's just a matter of me going through the journey, go through the steps of the day and talking to people when I am inspired to talk to them, even if they're strangers. And
yeah. I'll give you an example of that. I've got a wonderful guy who's based in Australia who's helping me out with marketing at the moment, marketing my books. So for the first time I've done a pre-order on a book, so I've had it out there for pre-order. And he said he came up with a great idea, which is for every day this week to do a video, like a countdown video, a little thing on YouTube and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Put it in my diary. So my head said, yeah, agreed with his head, it's a good idea. And this is not to denigrate his idea. It is generally good idea. But my heart and my gut said, there's something better out there. Don't do it. So I didn't do it yesterday, and 2 amazing things have turned up that would have not turned up if I'd been busy doing the videos. I would have blocked them out, right? And they're better than anything I could have invented.
Right.
But my head went, I should do
this
these videos.
This is a logical thing to do. Yeah.
Because it's one, I like the idea, and it's a good thing to do. I've seen other people do it and all this sort of stuff. But then it blocks out something which is even better. And I got asked to do it, and which was also easier. It took me even less time to do these other things, and they're bigger.
So that was you stopping. Have you done any of the videos yet?
Nope, not one. But I don't need to.
Okay, all right. Because I was going to say, if it stops you partway through a plan, and you're listening to intuition, going, okay. So it stopped you even before you started the plan. I put
them in my diary, and then I've moved them. And what I'll do is I'm going to do the videos, but as a post thing. So I'll do one every week or every month in the new year as a post thing. I didn't.
And tell me what you knew. I really want to know.
It's it's all about magic. It's about time magic. It's called Managing Time Mindfully, and how time is an illusion created by us, so we can meet at the same time and that sort of stuff, which is a good thing. But also we become enslaved by time, and time is man-made. it's made largely by men, so we can count and go to work on time and come away from work on time and this sort of stuff. But seconds and minutes and hours, weeks and months don't exist. We've made them up so we can turn up on Skype at the same time, which is good. Yeah, but we've also enslaved us.
It's good for now.
It's good for now.
But I'm assuming that in the future we'll get to the point where you and I will sort of telepathically go, "Hey, it's about time we did a video. How are you doing right now? Not now. How are you doing right now? Oh yeah, I could do it right now." And then we'll get on Skype. I'm assuming that we'll be able to get to that stage where it won't be about, oh, it's got to be, at this particular time. It'll be that we tune into each other, like now's a good time to do it.
It's kind of weirder than that, actually. If you want me, can I go weird?
Yeah, go weird.
Go weird. So we're in 2 different time zones, aren't we? So it's just about 9:30 over here. So what time are you over there?
It's 8:30 in the evening.
Okay. And so we sync by doing things at different times, doing things in the morning, you're doing things in the evening. We'll be able to have the conversation at the same time that suits us. So
yes,
the telepathic conversation can be at the time that suits you and the time that suits me, which will be at a different time.
Yep. That makes sense.
And I've channeled this in I've done some future channeling in a book called This We Are, where I've gone 200 years out to the future, and we've got men and women on Mars, and we've got this delay of time to get from Mars to here. And the third generation Martians, this is all fictional by the way, but also possibly true, work out how to delete the time delay between Mars and the UK, the Earth, sorry, in this book.
Well, the UK is the Earth. So
it's
is
the
it
centre of the Earth? It's the centre. It's GMT.
That's
isn't
what
it?
you think. You're just up the wrong way. If you really knew what it feels like to be down here, you'd know Australia is the centre of the Earth.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So GMT is the home of time. Anyway, on which note, by the way, I've actually done a fantastic fantastic meditation visualization which gets rid of jet lag.
Oh, fantastic!
We're wandering off now,
but
it sends your subtle body on ahead of time for you, and your subtle body arrives at the destination before you do. Then your physical body catches up, and you do it both ways, and you end up with no jet lag. Which is again, it shows that how we've been enslaved by time, but how we can free ourselves by time by jumping into a high dimensional position.
When you were talking about us meeting together, I thought of that too. That if we can get to the point of teleporting, that we'll be able to, I know we were talking about just getting on Skype, but teleporting is how I'd thought of that as well, that if you can move time, then if I look at my kids sitting there, they want to play computer games before school, and every morning I'm like, no, you have to stop now to get ready for school, that once they get to the teleporting stage, they can play as long as they like, and then they can turn up at 9 o'clock at school.
Yeah.
Does that sound right? So they would be able to play as long as they want, and then I go, look, you have to do some schooling today. So then they would go to school at 9 o'clock. They'd arrive at 9 o'clock and do their day's work. Would that be right?
It would be right. And also there's things you can do where you can fit more things into the same time just by controlling your breathing and controlling your thoughts as well. So just by controlling...
With schools away, couldn't you? And just get it all done very quickly. It sounds good. Fantastic. And when is your new book coming out?
This Friday on the new moon.
Perfect. Can you send me the links to it, and we'll connect it to this interview?
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
And it's a synthesis. If I think about it, it is a synthesis of male and female magic.
There it is. There it is.
It talks a lot about gut time and heart time, and talking to the gut and the heart. It talks a lot about left and right brain, and it talks about allowing things to arrive just in time, like your job,
like my job.
And
I'll have to read it.
And like this interview, which we completely separately timed. I didn't realise the interview I was going to talk about the book, but it's kind of handy. It is talking about it this week, which is kind of useful. But also it's important that it's time for female time to come back in. And females have always been much more in sync with natural times than males. Months are man-made.
And we've got to teach the females that too.
Exactly. Months are man-made. Moons, which is the rotation of the Earth, of the Moon around the Sun, which all females link to, is female time. And part of this new thing that we're going to get into, this new phase of evolution for humanity, is for practical purposes, social and cultural purposes, moving away from man-made time into natural time. And actually, this is not a weird thing, because about 3 billion people on the planet use a lunisolar calendar. The Chinese and anyone that follows the Islam faith, all their holidays and their feast days are based around lunar solar time, which is a wonderful thing to do. And then they use the Gregorian calendar to sync with the rest of the world, so we can have this duality of two calendars working at the same time, which would be a nice thing to do. And of course, women are brilliant at that sort of things because they're naturally tuned in.
Yeah. How perfect it all seems to work. It's brilliant.
It is.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure, and you too.